Hey guys, it's Seth here. Walking Dead Season 3 predictions. um, Before I start this, I realized that the last episode of The Walking Dead took about 2 weeks to be released. Let me check that actually. No, about 2 weeks. Because I'm uploading the last episode later tonight. Yeah, things went wrong with that. Like, what happened was I put all the videos into Adobe Encoder to render all of them. 'Cause I wanted every video rendered so I could release them on a daily basis. But something's wrong with my computer, and doing that crashed my video card. So I had 3 episodes, and I uploaded them, and then it's kind of been I can't really be doing anything while I render stuff on my computer because there's a possibility of my graphics card just dying. So, graphics card drives, I don't know what it is. It's something with the graphics card, and Adobe rendering is crashing it. So, that's why it took a bit, because I had to be very, what's the word? Careful, I guess, when I rendered stuff, or else it might just completely crash everything and it may fail and blah, 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 blah. So, there's that, and then also, I want to be there to be able to survey it in case something goes wrong so I can restart it, because I don't want to have to do it, I don't want it to be done in the middle of the night, and then it's just like, oh, hey, it didn't work. I'm gonna have to wait till later, so I figure, you know what, I can do stuff in the middle of the day, and get it rendered in the middle of the day, and hopefully nothing crashes. And it didn't. I got the last episode rendered, so yeah, that's why it took a bit. That's why the first 3 episodes went up fast, and the next couple kind of went slow. But it's all good now. So if you're just here for analysis and you didn't care why, well, predictions, and you didn't care why they were uploaded so late, well, hello. You clicked on the thing that allowed you to skip to to this part. So there you go. Congratulations. May stop briefly just to take a drink. I'm sorry, I'm extremely thirsty. Alright. So, predictions for The Walking Dead Season 3. At least Episode 1. God. And maybe into Episode 2. I don't know about the rest of it, though. It's definitely gonna be interesting. Because I don't know how it's going to be shaped. Really. Because if it was just another death, well, it could have been. I looked at all of the endings for The Walking Dead, and you could have killed everyone, you could have only had one person killed, but yeah, it was interesting. So let's start out with my 2 choices at the end, with Kenny staying or leaving. I feel like I made the wrong choice here, because I chose to stay at Wellington. And at the time, I was like, you know what? This is the smart decision. I can be safe here, right? Well, when you look back at the endings a couple of times, you start to notice little things that people say. And the chick up at the top of the thing that was talking to us and saying, oh, we can't allow people here, was saying, I made the case that, and then she just gets cut off by Kenny. So we have absolutely no idea why we're being allowed in. Which is interesting. Because it could have been I made the case that they can be slave labor. For all I know. Maybe it's a concentration camp. Because that would be a thing that could happen too. If you think about it. Because the same thing happened with Hitler. Because, like, if you think about it, back in, oh god, what was it, World War One, World War Two? It was World War Two, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Yeah, of course it was, because everyone from World War One is dead. During that, people in, I think it was Germany or whatever, were saying, oh, these concentration camps are great. I don't think they call them concentration camps, but whatever. They said it was great. It was a great place to be. There was even a movie about, like, someone who made a friend there and was, like, really confused about why he started getting treated so bad, and then he went in, and, spoilers, he got gassed. But, yeah, that could be a possibility. It could just be a concentration camp, if you think about it. It could be slave labor. I don't know, maybe it can turn into a Carver situation, and Clementine the baby can turn into the group she was with where they escape, which I imagine is going to happen. Excuse me. What I imagine is going to happen, despite if you leave with Kenny or stay in the camp, is that you're going to come back to Wellington, or Kenny's going to come back. Because she did say that you could come back in a couple months because they weren't accepting members. You can check back in a few months. So I imagine what's going to happen is, either, depending on what you chose, Kenny's going to come back, or Kenny and Clementine are going to come back, and they're going to get in, and then they're going to find out what it really is, and then it's going to be weird with the plot, but just, like, a rough idea on what I'm thinking. A couple months after Kenny and Clementine get into there, bad stuff happens. They break out. That's why I imagine happens, because that's the only way both endings can tie into each other. And if you think about it, there are 5 different endings. Yeah, there are 5 different endings. There are 2 of Jane, 2 of Kenny, and then 1's just by yourself. So there are 5 different endings. So when you think about one episode is equivalent to a whole season that Telltale makes. So unless they got some really good funding, that's not going to happen. It's not going to be 5 separate stories. I imagine it's going to be condensed into 3, if not all into 1. And I'll get into the 1 in a second. But what I imagine is going to happen is, that's going to happen, and then maybe the entirety of season 2, episode 2 is just kind of trying to get away from those people, so you can't spread the message to other people that, hey, Wellington is torture, literally. So, yeah, there's that. And then I imagine, well, no, I'll go into James, because then that kind of segues into the being alone part, which I'll explain in a minute about what I'm thinking. But with Jane, I didn't actually see anyone get this ending. I had to look it up on YouTube, and even that was a struggle. I guess everyone just hated Jane after the events of the baby still being alive. And you know what? Why would you blame anyone? I imagine the amount of people who went with Jane is about 5%, to be honest. Even though it was, 69.7% of people that killed Kenny, I imagine like 5% or something like that actually went with her because of what she did. Yeah, 'cause no one chose that. Absolutely no one. It was either she dies or you leave her. So, yeah, but so I imagine they're not going to focus on this ending much. Just considering how many people chose Kenny versus how many people chose to go with Kenny versus how many people chose to go with Jane. But again, not again, but I don't know the statistics, so maybe I'm wrong on that front. But what I see now, if you don't know what happened, look it up on YouTube. In fact, I'll put a link in the description of all of the endings, and that should you should look at those if you don't know all of the endings, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. I should have mentioned that in the beginning, but whatever. I don't do these scripted, okay? I do them all off the top of my head because that's what I like doing. But so what I imagine, if you take the survivors in, there's going to be some kind of falling out. And that one father had a gun. And I imagine what's going to happen is Jane's going to try kicking him out with something. They're going to have a fight, and then Jane's going to get shot and killed. And then, I don't know, maybe Clementine will kill everyone, or she'll just run away. I don't know. That's irrelevant. What I think is going to happen is Jane's going to get killed. Because that just makes sense. Either that, or they somehow do manage to form some sort of community, and Jane just ends up kind of like Carver, and Clementine's like, yo, Jane, pop, pop. Well, someone else kills her. I mean, Jane was talking about how Kenny was turning into Carver, but at the same time, I don't see her not doing it, considering what she did with the baby. Or she might just make someone really angry. Versus if you turn them away, then it's not going to get that in depth. The father is probably just going to come back in the middle of the night or something and kill someone. I can't imagine it being Jane first, though, since Clementine's like, hey, leave or I'm gonna shoot you in the face. Like, that wasn't Jane, that was Clementine. But maybe he thinks, oh, Jane would be the bigger threat since she's older, and then while they're sleeping, pop. Or smother her. I don't know. But something like that. They come back. Maybe they have a gang. And they just shoot up the place. And then Jane ends up dying. And then, again, it turns into the same thing as if you invite them in. Because that only makes sense. Because, again, 5 different stories in one episode, and maybe 2 is equivalent to 1 or 2 full seasons for The Walking Dead. So, it's just a huge budget, and I don't imagine them actually being able to do that. And then that would leave you on your own, I imagine, with the child. But maybe he gets killed too. I don't know. It's entirely possible. And then back to the Kenny thing. Same thing. Solo of Kenny. He would probably get killed on the run from the wherever it is. Wellington people, that's it. I imagine him getting killed somehow by them. Or while they're running, he just runs into a walker and gets bit or something like that anyway. And Kenny ends up dying. And then, again, you're on your own for maybe the 2nd, 3rd, 4th episode. I don't know. With the kid, and then with the kid, I don't know. But that all ties up into one story. If everyone just kind of dies, if Kenny and Jane just die. It's entirely possible for you two to get split up as well. Like, maybe the thing happens with Jane. Jane and Clementine run. They get split up. They don't see each other, maybe until next season or something like that. Same thing with Kenny. You're running away from Wellington. You get split up, and then you don't see each other for a while. But, again, that's entirely possible. But I just imagine someone getting killed. Because since you could have chose either one of them to get killed, I imagine you have a person dying. But at the same time, it is entirely possible for Telltale to be like, you know what? This is going to be important, and this is going to mean something in the future. Because they did do that with the 400 Days DLC, where they actually had some people from the people from 400 Days who was in the group that went over to Carver's camp. They actually had them in Carver's camp. But then the other ones I don't know about. That's the problem. So I do not know what they're going to do with that. Honestly, I'm thinking more towards the killing part, but it's just too hard to say. So it's one of those two. But again, imagine you end up alone by the 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th episode. I don't know how they're gonna do it. I'm not a good writer by any means. So this is all just predictions on my part. So I imagine by that you're going to be alone with AJ, and then there's going to be some decision at the end of the season between yourself and AJ, maybe when he's grown or something. I don't know. I'm saying AJ because Kenny, but the baby because there's going to be some decision between yourself and the baby. That's it. That's why I imagine. That's the only thing I could think of. But again, it can develop as the season goes on. I mean, Jane was introduced this season, and then it was between her and Kenny at the end. So it's entirely possible something like that may happen again at the end of the next season. So it's kind of hard to say at this point, but I think it's entirely possible for there to be a chance for the kid to get killed. Or the baby to get killed, or whatever. I don't know how far it's going to be after the events of Season 2, but I imagine that the baby's going to have a chance to get killed in Season 3. I just imagine that there's just going to be some decision that can get it killed. Him killed, I'm sorry. So, yeah. So to sum it up, Kenny ending. Kenny or you and Kenny come back to Wellington, find out that it's kind of like Carver's camp and an escape. And then either you and Kenny get separated, or Kenny gets killed, or something happens in episode 2 after you escape. With Jane, either people turn on her, she turns into like a Carver, and then Clementine has to kill her. They have to run away from people attacking them. Maybe all people from the camp come back, and then they end up like trying to shoot them, something like that. And then no matter what you chose, you end up on your own in the middle of the season. Again, all just predictions. If anyone has said anything about Season 3 and what's going to be happening in Season 3, I haven't read it or watched it or whatever. I know IGN did something about it. I just keep seeing on Twitter Telltale retweeting IGN being like, want to know why The Walking Dead finished the way it did? Look here. And I haven't, because I wanted to do this prediction before I saw that. And I don't imagine they're going to be spoiling something like Kenny dying in Season 3 or something like that on IGN. I imagine that it hasn't even gone through Telltale's doors. I imagine all of the actors and actresses and writers and producers are sleeping in Telltale Studios. No, that's dumb, but seriously. Yeah, anyway, thank you guys for listening. My name is Seth0015, and this has been The Walking Dead Season 3 predictions. If I'm right, all of you watching owe me a cookie. I'm kidding, bye.